Good evening, everyone. I am Ashley Lucier, the Executive Director of Amplifying Arts, and welcome to another session of our Amplifying the Arts webinar series. Tonight, we are excited to explore how partnerships between nonprofits, so one focused on arts education and the other on youth services, can create real change in our schools. So please join me in welcoming our guests. We have Kathleen Stoves, our Mobile Site Director at Amplifying Arts, and Mary Frances Clarke, the Director of Development at Fuse Project. So Kat and Mary Frances have been working together to expand access to the arts for students across Mobile. And they have some great insights to share tonight. So if you guys are ready, we'll dive in. Woohoo! Okay. So first, just kind of general questions. I want to talk about the foundation of your work together. So can you kind of tell us, and this is kind of for both y'all, so whoever wants to jump in, of how Amplifying Arts Mobile and Fuse Project first began collaborating?
So for us with Fuse, a few years back, we decided to really focus on place-based investments. And so all of our efforts are focused on the Avenue or the Campground Bottom here in Mobile. And we started with one school, Florence Howard Elementary, and kicked off these clubs. In a lot of the public schools here in Mobile, extracurriculars are not part of their every day, I guess is the way you would say that, like no art teacher on staff. So we started these clubs. They met quarterly, it moved to monthly kind of thing. And then I'm pretty sure Kat just called me because we're all good friends and realized like, hey, we have so much crossover. And there were really ways to stretch a dollar together. And I am not an artist or artistic truly in any way. So I was like, heck yeah, Mobile Arts Council, here we go. And so, yeah, Kat, I mean, she called and I was like, oh, absolute yes, of course. So.
Yeah, I would just want to shout out to Mary Frances, such an awesome person to partner with. And the Fuse Project has been such a great partnership for Mobile Arts Council and Amplifying Arts. When I tell you Mary Frances goes above and beyond, the communication in a partnership, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this, is key. And we communicate really well, nonstop, through the day to kind of get this programming going. And our relationship is, just that of a friendship, really. Like she said, I called her up and said, hey, it seems like y'all are doing great work. I would love to get involved. We have a network of artists who are looking to expand their resume and go out into the school system. They're professional artists, they can provide great programming. So yeah, it just started from there. And I'm really excited about it, to see the growth from when we started till now.
Me too, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, really, you're both doing really great work, on your own, but why, thinking about why that partnership, why does that make it particularly effective in expanding that arts access when you could just really do it separately?
So I can touch on this. When we first started Art Club at Florence Howard, we partnered with a local art studio. Well, they were a small team as well. I mean, they might have had 2 or 3 people. Then at Fuse, it's just myself and Ann Brooks. And so, at some point you're like, there aren't enough hands here. And so that's really where we were so interested is, oh my gosh, a variety of teachers and true artists that live in this city, that then it shows students this could be a career. And anyways, just all the things for us. I think we realized, don't stay in your box or your silo. There are other people in Mobile just has such a thriving arts community in general. And like I said, we've always loved the girls at Mac. We were seeing each other all the time. And so it was just like, why would you not collaborate? I mean, I don't know that I have like a good answer except like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly right. I mean, I would just say basically the same thing. Know your strengths. I mean, we know at Mac, we know what we bring to the table, and why not? We're stronger together. Just it just makes sense to partner with people who have tapped into a side of the community or the city that maybe we haven't yet, and we open the door for them in some areas as well. And just knowing your strengths and being honest and communicating well is where it's at. So
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And when we kind of talk about, what makes those partnerships successful, Kat, you touched on communication, and we've seen that in other partnerships that we've done across the state too. I know a couple months ago, Chris and Dwayne were on here, and they were talking about how important communication is between them, and that's a nonprofit and a school staff. But thinking about kind of like those key ingredients in addition to communication that makes it successful for y'all, what do you feel like are things that do make the partnership successful that you have to kind of have in place?
I can tell you that I annoyed the absolute mess out of them with almost like the game plan or the lesson plan. And I don't know if that is because I am the child of an educator. And so lesson plans have just always been a big part of my life. But again, it just comes back to a lot of nonprofits do have small staffs or only so many resources. And so this partnership has been so great. And so we did expand into numerous schools. And so for me, I just needed it to be this is the list and these are the supplies needed because again, truly not an artist. So like they really had to break it down for me in the things that were needed to actually make art happen. And so outside of our communication, I'm just a big list girly and they really embrace that for me. And but you kind of touched on it too, Ashley. So in this partnership, Fuse is really kind of the liaison from the school to Amp Up Arts. And so that's just as the kids get older, like for example, in the elementary school, the club is once a month. We know that in advance. We've been doing it now for a little while. So it's a well-oiled machine as far as the scheduling goes.
Yeah.
In the middle school, we just kind of launched this whole new thing and it was with tutoring as well. And it's not a requirement, like it's after school hours. So it was always just like, how many are going to be there and what does it look like? And so coordinating that with the school, sometimes we were just always ready to pivot and everyone did well with that. And so I would say communication, the game plan, and always being able, to think on your feet, if you have to, would be
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
pieces from us for sure.
I think when I was reading this question, I just came to mind like the spirit of an underdog. And I feel like
Love that.
nonprofits and artists in general just have a gritty spirit about them. And like Mary Frances said, we know how to pivot and think on our feet. And that is essential to this work. And knowing that, things may change direction, maybe right before the class, even. You don't hope for that, obviously, and knowing that you placed a professional artist who you trust in that classroom to be able to do these things. That's essential too. So obviously, and just forming the trust. I know that Mary Frances trusts me to be able to put that type of person in the classroom, to be able to do those things. And I trust her to have, had these great experiences and partnerships with these schools at Florence Howard and Callaway Smith to be able to get us in the door there. So, yeah.
And I think, like Kat, you're talking about like playing to each other's strengths and like Mary Frances, like, we had the infrastructure in place. We just need the people. And sometimes like in different partnerships we have, that kind of switches around. Like sometimes we have the infrastructure and we need someone to find, the people. But I think that's a really important thing to kind of identify too with schools, even when you're approaching schools and partnerships, because you may have like one piece of it and you have to partner with another, organization to get that other piece. And if y'all aren't communicating, the school isn't going to be able to take advantage of that, because the schools don't have the time and the means to like figure out these partnerships, for us. So we have to like come to them and like you guys said, like kind of identifying those strengths. Like I can bring this to it, you can bring this to it, and that makes it so much easier for the school, to want people to come in and work with them when you have it kind of like set out like that game plan.
In my experience, it seems like, you want to walk up to a school and approach a school with everything in place, and you want to be trustworthy for them too. You don't want to be another headache. That's for sure. They've already got enough going on. They don't need us coming in and creating more work for them. So
yeah, I had a principal tell me like just earlier today, they were like, we get a lot of different distractions, like vendors come in, they're like, I can get rid of the vendor in a second. I don't care about a vendor. But they were like, if a partner can come in and have everything ready for me and it doesn't like add to my load, like that, I will welcome that with open arms. And I think a lot of them really, view it like that, is that like you're genuinely coming from a place of wanting to support the students and not just like, selling a ticket item or something.
And I think like consistency for us has really come up. Like, I won't say there weren't moments of this where I'm pretty sure, principals were like, do you know what you're biting off here? Like, I mean, you say you're going to come weekly or you're going to come monthly. Like, I think sometimes some partnerships might burn that bridge or they don't do what they say. And so that was like the number one thing I feel like Kat and I talked about, was like, if we're going to do this, like, we're going to do it. And so, but I think that's what's really made it work. And now everyone's invested to it. Like, these schools will have art now. I'm going to use the word forever, and that might be a little dramatic, but I mean, they value it now because they know that we're going to show up and do it, and we're going to make it as easy as we can. Like, Kat and I have this inside joke. I'm like, if you just give me that date and time, I will do everything else. Date, time, number of kids, how old are they? That's all I need from you. And so, but even that sometimes, we'll get into that part later, but finding the time sometimes within a school schedule can be a challenge. But we're working on it, and I think it's been great. We're meeting them where they are, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, that is. And that's really important. And it is really, like, it is really inspiring to hear, opportunities that we're able to give these students. But, Mary Frances, like you were just kind of alluding to, there are some of those challenges, the challenges, and like kind of how do we come up with those solutions for them. And I think that's something too that, in the world of nonprofits and arts, we'd love for everything to go perfectly all the time. But we do have it is challenging. The schools are bringing challenges. The kids are bringing challenges from their communities, from their homes, that affect, we may not see it as like a direct effect of what they're bringing when we see them every day, what they're bringing, but it's there. And then there's a whole bunch of other, slew of challenges and stuff that can happen. So I did want to talk about, kind of how you guys have maybe faced some or overcome some obstacles with this collaboration. So just kind of just starting off, like, what are some challenges that you faced while kind of building this or maintaining the partnership? And then what solutions have you, come up with, or what solutions are you still looking for in this?
So I know in the beginning, when we had our first conversation, in my mind, I was like, oh, this will be so easy because we're already doing this club structure at the elementary school. So, let's copy paste and do it at the middle school. And like I said, never did I stop and think to myself, oh, like middle school is more serious, the education aspect of things, and like just a more strict timeline that I never really considered without sitting down and talking to school leadership first. But luckily, that's how they came up with like, hey, let's use this as an incentive for kids to come to after school tutoring, because I don't know about y'all, but if ADHD over here, after 7 or 8 hours of educational teaching each day, the last thing I would want to do is to go to tutoring.
Especially if
but
they call it tutoring or intervention. Like,
exactly.
oh
And
yes, that's exactly what I want to stay after for.
right. But it was how we could start it. It was how we could fit into the schedule and start a program at the middle school. And so, you know, one of my flaws that, Kat helped me understand, like, I wanted it to be during school hours and I wanted it to be every child in that school. But, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And that for us is where we just pivoted, and it's worked and the kids love it. It's been awesome. You know, I would say schedule is probably one of my biggest hurdles, but we're getting through it. Kat, I mean, do you agree?
Yeah. I would say just patience is key. I've found I love being in these this partnership with Fuse Project and Mary Frances at the two schools that we're at. But we've had connections with 18 schools overall, and I have learned that every single school is its own ecosystem. Just because it's going to work one way for one school does not mean it's going to work the same way at the next school down the road. So, I trick my brain and think about it like, oh, this is going to be a fun new adventure. I'm going to walk into the door. It's going to be new. It's going to be fresh, like
Going on
whatever you have to do to get yourself through. And because the end goal is to bring the arts to the kids, and keeping that passion is essential. And just having patience, and it's a give and take situation. You have to build trust with the principals. You have to build trust with the other administrators as well, and the kids. And that's the most important, because a lot of these kids, they see some different programming coming in and it's like a flip, they see it like every so often, it'll come in and then it'll leave and they'll never see that program again.
Yeah.
So that is very important to me, to be able to provide programming that they can depend on and rely on. And that all comes back to planning.
And the consistency, like I think we went into it to the schools saying, like, not one time, like the whole year, or
Right.
like the quarter, or like the semester at minimum. Like
Yeah.
I felt like we approached it to say we need dates for the whole semester. Like, don't let the light burn out, kind of thing.
Right.
Was
And it's not just the students that, I'm sure that the principals and other administrators, they have to believe you, you've got to prove yourself almost. That's what, coming back to the underdog spirit, the grittiness of the artist and nonprofit life. You have to have passion and believe in what you're doing, and kind of convince them that, this program is worth it. And we're going to be here. Like, if you're going to allow us, we're going to show up and we're going to do the best job we can do. And it's worth it.
I think, Kat, you kind of talked about how like schools are their own ecosystems. I think part of that scheduling and, a lot of those challenges that we face really frequently in partnerships with schools, you have to be very creative about. And I think a really great thing about partnering, like you said, like y'all are with, other than those two, you're with 16 other schools that you're also seeing their ecosystems, and maybe they have a solution that can work for another one, and
Yes.
They don't always have the ability to like go back and forth and communicate with each other. But, you two are seeing multiple schools. You're seeing multiple of those ecosystems that like, hey, this might not work for your school, but it could. And this is a creative way to think about it that another school is doing, which I think is a really, I think, those catalysts that they get in conversations, and even though they might not be directly talking to each other, but almost like conversations through you guys, through your partnerships, can be really helpful, as well. But Kat, yeah, you were talking about, building trust, and kind of making this, principals have so much on their plate that sometimes what they focus on is what's right in front of them. And with pressures from the federal level, the state level, their district level, in terms of academic growth, attendance, behavior, that's a lot of things that they're putting in front of them. And so often, if art is not something that they can just fund fully, in their school during the day, it's, it's not really seen as something that's kind of necessary. It's like, well, it's nice if I can get to it and I have time to do it. But if I don't, I'm not gonna, lose sleep over it like I would my ACAP scores, right? But when we're talking to them, I think Kat, especially, and kind of asking you this, because it is focused on the arts, how, when you are building that trust, and how do you advocate for that importance of arts education, with them if they don't initially prioritize it? What can you kind of do to help build that trust and that relationship with them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I bring data to the table. I know that schools and people who are not necessarily arts minded appreciate data. And so when you approach a school and you say, like, your attendance rates are going to go up if you have arts programming, that's an easier sell than saying, hey, I have this, this art program. It's fabulous. If you show that data, it's going to get your foot in the door likely. And I've also found that if you have other partnerships with principals who are willing to advocate for you and your programming, principals trust other principals. So I, like you and I were talking today, Ashley, about a principal that we know that we work with who was willing to stand up and talk at a principal's meeting about our programming. That is, I mean, you take that to the bank. Like, there's no better advocate than somebody, who's in the same shoes, saying this is worth it. You better get this programming in the door. And then obviously, I show them resumes. I show them proof of these professional, high caliber, art programming that we're willing to put forth. And yeah, I believe in it. I really believe in it. And I can't help but smile when I talk about it. And I think that's really essential too. Like, you can't talk to these principals and fake it, because they're gonna know right away that, it's not worth their time.
Yeah. I don't know. Kat did not know that I just thought about this, Kat. I hope it's okay that I say this. But I remember when Kat and I met with the superintendent, it was probably it was over a year ago. And this was like our first time meeting with him and kind of telling him, what we do and what we're about and what we can provide the district. And I am much more I'm like, this is what we have. Very straightforward. And Kat, her passion for it just spread all over the meeting. And I was like, I'm not even gonna I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna let Kat be passionate about arts right now, because I think this is all he needs to hear.
I can't help it.
It was and look, I was glad. I was like, this is your district. This is great that he's hearing this, because I think that's really important for them to see, like you said, for them to see that passion, like earlier, or you're not just selling something, you're genuinely have a good belief in it. And I think any part of advocacy is gonna, you're gonna have some type of passion for that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I hadn't thought about that in a while. That's funny. Yeah.
She was getting a little emotional.
Hey.
Yeah, I can't help it, man. I can't.
No.
I was like, she's working it. She's not trying to, but she is working the room. This is great.
It worked.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
why? I mean, that's part of it. Why would you? This isn't like glamorous work, you know? I can't describe. It's many positive, beautiful things that I could talk about this for hours, but glamour is not an adjective I would use. So you gotta have the passion and gotta believe in what you're doing to stick
I
with it,
mean,
or else
I
why
remember
would you do it?
I teared up. I teared up one time when we had the mural revealing at
yeah.
the school down in Mobile, and they had the whole program, and they had the kids performing, and I teared up, and I was just like, Kat, I don't know, like what's come over me, and and
Something in that Mobile water.
Yeah.
something
We'll
about
really get you.
But I mean, I was thinking of like all these like little bitty steps that like I had to do that, like I had to find Kat had to do this and this for this one thing to happen. And like you said, it was like this beautiful event for these kids and the parents and their community, but the gritty work behind it, it's a lot to do that.
Sure.
And then but it's like tearing up. It's so much work like to get to this, and it's so great that it happened. I'm just so happy.
It goes back to what y'all said though too. It really just takes one person to say, yeah, let's try it. And I hate to say that you have to, like document everything you do, but am I frozen?
No, you're good.
Okay, sorry. I was looking frozen. But all I'm saying is then it gets shared once, then so and so principal sees it, like, and then it just takes off. So really, you just need one person to say yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it kind of is a trickle effect, or that's how we've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mary Frances, we just talked a lot about like arts education, and Fuse is not specifically just arts, right?
Correct.
You're kind of more of a, I would say, would you say wraparound?
Yeah, I mean, like
for students.
we definitely are, like I was saying earlier, just place-based investment, holistic approach to community revitalization. But to do that, education, community wellness, economic development, housing, so all the things. But a lot of our main focus the past couple of years has been education and the whole child. So for us, we do depend on data a lot as well, but we kind of took the approach of like, in my mind, this is not a want, it is a need. These kids, no matter their age, I just said this to a group the other day. I just can't imagine, like, there is no outlet. I mean, you have PE, that's great, but like, what if you're not athletic? Or like, and so then my approach in the beginning of this, taking it kind of back to the clubs at Florence Howard, was there's more to art than just drawing or, like what people think. I'm like, for me, it is dance, it is ballet, it is theater, it is drawing, it is painting. There's so many facets to it. And are we exploring all of those right now? No, but I just think it's opening the door to do all of that. And the schools that we are partnered have seen decent improvements in scoring and different things. And I can't help but to think that this is a small part of that. I think everyone in the community, everyone in the school is all working together, thinking about the whole child. And we've just seen a lot of students that having this journal as an outlet, or saying like, if I'm frustrated with something, I'm going to go draw, or express your emotions through your art, different things like that, where, as we've discussed, a lot of these kids may not have great structure outside of the school. And so we've really seen something special with this happen. And it may not be immediate data, but if I was a betting woman, I would say that, Give it another 2 or 3 years, and you're going to see these schools just skyrocket and blossom more than they already are. And it's because we're planting the seed of art education, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, hot damn, that's, I feel like we could end it there. That's
No, we don't
so
need
good.
you anymore in the meetings. I'm
Right?
But it is a need. It is a need. I say that to people all the time. I'm not embarrassed to let everyone know, like, I grew up as privileged as they come. I attended a private school and I had every opportunity for every extracurricular under the sun. Soccer, volleyball, art, theater, music. As y'all know, I'm very loud and have a ton of energy, and I was allowed to be a cheerleader and sing in the choir and do all these things. And so for me, I just can't imagine being a kid. All of them are kids to me. Middle schoolers or young adults, that's fine. But being a kid and being told, sorry, no, like we don't have that. I never got told that. And so people are like, how do you get on stage at lip sync battle and speak into a crowd? And I'm like, because I was exposed to arts at age 5. If y'all truly. And so I just think it affects everything. It could be math, it could be your public speaking skills, but it all comes back to let them plug into something. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of talked about, the foundation of it a little bit. Sure. And how much we all love art, which I'm sure, listeners want to hear as well. But one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you guys a lot about too is kind of those strategies for expanding access, because y'all have been really successful in those together and, in other ventures that you've had and schools that you've worked with. But I do want to talk about some of those specific kind of strategies that, listeners could kind of take back with them, that they can use, whether they're, they have their own nonprofit or they're an individual wanting to partner with schools or schools themselves, what they can kind of think about. So just in the beginning, really general, kind of what advice would you give to organizations or individuals if they want to start building partnerships to build arts in their schools? If you could give them one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
I feel like from our standpoint, it was like, do your research. Don't go create something, because there's most likely a program already out there. Like, I hate to say it's not that hard. We have put hard work into it, but if you really go relate it to what it's become, I mean, I think we had 2 hour-long conversations, and like, it's just the bones are out there. So like, do your research, think of your network. Don't just be like, I have to go start art from the ground up. Because this exists. I mean, we had someone call the other day thinking like, hey, does Fuse Project want to help us with art? And I was like, not what we're focused on right now, yada, yada, but please call Kat. I mean, I just think it's sharing your resources. Like, why would I gatekeep that information?
Yeah.
So
what assets are already in the community?
Yeah. Like, and don't be scared to talk about it. That's call someone. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Know your strengths, trust your partners, vet your partners well, so that you're able to kind of let them run with the ball. That is essential if you want to grow. Because you're going to burn out if you try to micromanage, all these connections. So you really have to be able to trust the people that you put out into these schools. So do what you need to do to believe in what they're going to go and do in the school, representing you well, hopefully. And then, I don't know, I mean, just keep clear communication. Also speak to the schools too, and get surveys back from them, get feedback from the students, from the school administrators. See, if you are not on site with the person that you've then employed to go out into the school system, then you need to be fully aware of what's going on. Keep tabs on what they're doing. get lesson plans. But as far as partnerships, yeah, I would just say know your strengths, do your research in the community, and find out what other people are doing well, and communicate with them, network, see how y'all can work together.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay to start small. I mean, I go back to pre us even all working together. I'm like, if you would have asked me 3 years ago if all of this was going to come to fruition, I don't know that I saw it, like I was just so focused on one foot at a time. Let's see where this goes. And so it's okay if it is art club once a quarter. Like if it's not as consistent as you want it to be at first, that is
Mhm.
okay. Like you're building trust, you're forming relationships, and that's
Yeah.
what starts anything. So I'm
Be
really bad
patient.
about that. Yes, like I'm, guilty of that all the time. Like it's got to be perfect out of the gate and it needs to be on this timeline and this, that, or the other. But really, just starting it is a great first step.
Yeah. And like you said, those really like baby steps. I mean, even when we started Amp Up Arts Mobile, when we created the site there, it was not a rush to, let's be in as many schools as possible. Like, let's get your partnerships and your networking down. And, like you said, figure out like who you can already work with in the area, because there's no need for us to go reinvent the wheel if we can go support someone that's already there that may just need more like infrastructure or more, we can assist in their capacity to be able to work with schools. We can, kind of leverage that we're a statewide organization to be able to,
Right.
To help other people get into the schools or partner with them. But yeah, like you said, I think being really patient and not expecting
Yeah,
like everything's going to be perfect the 1 month after, you start this program, and it's not. It's okay to take those baby steps, because then you're really building the foundation,
for
and that's
sure.
much more sustainable than kind of how Kat was saying, like avoiding those one-off
Right.
things that disappear, little flash in the pan kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, One of our other missions that we have when we're working with schools and working with students is that, I mean, it's right in our statement that we increase equitable access to the arts. And also, it's really important to us that we are, really looking at the diverse needs of students in the areas that we work with. So, like, what Kat does, in Mobile is very different than what, our sites in Huntsville or Tuscaloosa or Birmingham do. So a lot of that is kind of, really really ensuring that, that we are meeting the students where they are. So I wanted to kind of ask you guys, like, how do you ensure, that those programs are equitable? What are some, and that could be like some logistic, like very direct things that you do, or some beliefs that you have, and how you're making sure that the programs are equitable and that they're also meeting the needs of the students where they are.
So for us, I mean, at both schools, it is opened up to the entire grade level. I mean, it's like we're not necessarily limiting it with a sign up sheet per se.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I think that the most, sorry, that one gonna make sense. My favorite thing that has occurred is
Mhm.
all the teachers, art teachers that are in this partnership. So local artists of Mobile look at the kids and say, hey, what does art mean to you? What do you want to see in this art club or after school art? Like, forget what Miss Mary Frances wants to put on her refrigerator. What do y'all want to do? And so to me, that's where their creativity kind of comes to life, or they start thinking to themselves, oh, like, coolest answer we got at middle school, because middle school is you're not cool to middle schoolers. So let me confirm that for everyone. Um, but we had answers from everything from like shoe decorating, graffiti, stained glass windows. I mean, in my mind, it just doesn't get more diverse than that. I mean, just this array of options of art that they wanted to see. And I feel like we tried really hard to get it all in there somehow, some way. So yeah, Kath.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Surveys are essential because then you're hearing the needs directly from the students, asking the right questions. You know, what programming do you really want to see at your school? And then taking note of that data. Are kids showing up for the class? Do they seem like they're really about this? And seeing, you know, the growth in the work, taking note of the projects that they're doing. Are they really into it or not? You might need to pivot. And then for us, I mean, we've kind of tapped into the culture in some of our projects, our just local history. With Mardi Gras, for instance, we had a float come out at one of our schools, and because one of our teachers is a float builder and painter, and they painted with the students. And so that kind of wrapped culture, local community culture into, and that specific float actually runs at one of the parades that these kids go to.
Wow.
So it's, you know, it's just kind of looking at it with a lens, like a wide lens, and seeing the communities that you're serving, and trying to meet them and their needs where they are, and through their own voices too.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're not just, you shouldn't look at it like you're partnering and you're trying to like feed a lesson down somebody's throat. Like it's a person to person level, which is what I tell my teaching artists. I mean, you're there to provide these art lessons, but also you're there to provide reprieve for these students who are, you know, they're under this rigorous testing and stress at all times, and, you know, having to stay in these tiny boxes all day long. So you're really offering them a beautiful gift. So don't take that for granted when you're in front of them.
I
So
think well, and just I'm asking this more for the listeners because I know this, but these are free programs for the
mhm.
kids. For the kids don't have to pay to stay after or anything. So this is not like, you know, when you think of like, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I was going to an art class like at an organization in downtown Montgomery, but my parents had to stop because they couldn't afford it anymore, right? So it's
Mhm.
free and it's on the school campus. So they don't have to worry about like going from the school campus to somewhere else. They don't have to worry about that transportation, correct? Those are both, because when we talk about that equitable access, I mean, those are even the logistics of it, you know, if it's not
Yeah.
there, if it's not there on the school campus, or if it costs something, you're already cutting off like that equitability. You're already like decreasing
Yeah.
access for the
Yeah,
students.
for sure.
So I think
So
that's
when we
important to have that too.
For sure. When we approach the schools and partner with these principals, we try our best to get the programming within the school day if possible, which obviously provides that equitable access. And this summer, I don't know if you want to talk about what we're doing this summer, Mary Frances,
sure.
but
Um, so summer is another time, super interesting. Again, I got to attend all kinds of fun, non-educational summer camps. And so here in Mobile, the county helps cover elementary camps for math and reading is a requirement. And there's certain criteria, right? Like if the kids are not where they need to be. But so in the past, we've hosted our own Spark summer camp, but now we're going to integrate it in with the elementary school, Florence Howard. And so basically, on top of their educational things, we're just going to do other fun stuff. Because like we said, they just need to have the
Yeah.
access to that. And so um, during the school time, we'll have different partners come in. Like there's a 30-minute rotating PE. And so we'll sprinkle some fun into there, some attendance incentives, because again,
Yeah.
If you're a kid, every day you're like,
And
I
they're
really
not,
don't want to
yeah,
go.
and they're not required. I mean, they're, the
Right.
state,
I mean,
the
it's
state
not a
makes it
requirement. It's
optional
yes,
for them to go to these. The schools have to have them legally, but the students don't have to be there. So
correct.
yeah, a lot of times what you see them like go like the first week and then they don't come back.
Right.
Mhm.
And so specifically to Florence Howard, I don't know really how to put into words like how much these kids love clubs, but all second through, no, excuse me, third through fifth graders of the school participate in clubs, and they rotate to a new one each month. So they get to visit all of them, and they love them. They know when they are. They see us in grocery stores, and I mean, by now they know our names, but they'll be like, "Hey, you're that lady from Club Day." So they are obsessed with them. And so we're going to bring them in this summer, which we've never done before. But so to help with attendance, we are helping extend the hours of the summer camp. And instead of packing on even more educational pieces, even though learning is very important, we're going to help them learn through other art outlets. So we're going to do True Art Club. Kat might have to help me with this, but drawing and painting art, and then
It's for art.
continue our garden club, but also put in like an abstract art piece with that. Is that correct? Abstract art? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm super excited. We're also going to try to sprinkle in theater. And that is something these kids have definitely never had before. So, we're really excited about that because, they've got thriving personalities at this age. And I just think that's going to be really cool, to witness. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Awesome.
hopefully offering it during the summer for everyone. So the camp is for the whole school, kindergarten through fifth grade. So then it becomes something during the school year that you get to look forward to. Third grade, as we all know, is like when the ACAP becomes real heavy, the ACAP testing. And so that's how it was decided that clubs should be for these kids or that age student to find a release and things like
Yeah.
that. And so, but now these kids over summer will be like, oh my gosh, well, I'm not in third grade yet, but I get to look forward to having this club. And so we try to sprinkle it in to all ages throughout the year, but the clubs are third through fifth grade. So
I really like that they still include third grade in the clubs. That y'all have that they're letting y'all do that, because normally you almost get like the opposite reaction. Normally
yeah,
it's like we'll do everything with all the other grades but third grade, because they have to focus on ACAT, and it's like they
yeah,
can't do anything extra.
They need it the most,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
argue.
yeah.
yeah.
And I do think, don't quote me on this. I don't have any strict data numbers tied to it per se, but we are upticking. And I really would like to think it's because we're showing kids outlets, different ways to learn. I mean, even just being outside in garden club, they're naturally piecing together, oh, I've learned that in science, or
Mm-hmm.
math. We've learned about if you mix this and this, you get that, so the partners that Cat and Amp Up Arts are bringing into these schools have done an incredible job of like under what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, discreetly teaching, like making learning fun.
Integrating, yeah,
Yes,
integrating
yeah,
the, yeah,
integrating. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So the kids are really learning things, but they don't feel like they're just in their desk listening to their teacher. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been huge. So
Yeah. Kat, do you feel like kind of some of these things that Mary Frances is saying, like if you do have a school that doesn't really have like a strong arts program, like if somebody was thinking of these strategies, right, would these be kind of things that you think would resonate with them, messages that would resonate with them the most? Kind of this impact with integration or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to argue with the numbers. It's hard to argue like with positive attendance. It's hard to argue with literal pictures of smiling faces as they're as they're, completing the work in these clubs. And I just feel like they're just connecting with a broader community, because there's, Mary Frances and I representing nonprofits, separate nonprofits that exist within the city of Mobile. They're already learning, that partnerships exist with schools, and their worlds is getting bigger. They're seeing the downtown area in a different way, learning that we both are located in the downtown area. And, we have instructors that are coming in from all over Mobile. Some actually, for some of our programming, flying in from Colorado. So, there's so much more that goes on in these clubs that it's hard to put into words, how they're really affecting these kids. I mean, there's no way they would have these opportunities to work in the garden and design a garden space with two women from Mobile urban growers who have PhDs and know the science behind environmental science, and they're experts, and they're working with these kids and implementing these programs, and the joy is just palpable. So yeah, I mean, I have definitely found it easier as time has gone on, as we've, grown in programming at certain schools, to present what we've done to another school. And it's just so much easier to sell I feel like a dirty word, but it's just easier for the principal to understand that it's a legitimate thing that we're offering.
And I do think it goes back to the trust. I mean, again, I don't have firm examples of this, but I do think that principals and schools, they get burned. I mean, people
Right.
come in and say, I'm going to do this and I promise, and then it just doesn't work out. And so of course they're hesitant. I mean, I think we would be too. And so we're meeting them where they are, and then
Yeah.
we're making it happen. And so that's what gets shown to the next person. So
And it's showing what you've done, but also being open and willing to work with your potential new partner and do what they want to do. Have programming that maybe you haven't done that they're interested in, and you're saying with an energy like, yeah, let's do this at your school. Let's accomplish this. I just feel like maintaining that passion and being consistent and being patient is these three things are so key in this work.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys about your impact, or kind of what impact have you seen so far on the students in the schools in Mobile, but you guys have covered a lot of that. So I do kind of want to ask, we have about 5 minutes left. I do want to ask, about your goals for future collaboration. You talked a little bit about the summer, but kind of how do you see your collaboration, continuing on or increasing that access in the future?
I know from our standpoint, I mean, we meet with the principals and school leadership over each summer to kind of figure out how can we be bigger and better. And so I know that at both schools, we're really trying to figure out how literally every student, so like all 500, at least get to touch art a semester. Small step, but just to how to figure out, like, art for a kindergartner and art for a fifth grader do look different. So where can that, I hate to say fit in on the calendar, but that goes back to a challenge. Like, that is something that is really hard to do. There is not a lot of lax free time built in to the school day. And so really just trying to think creatively of how to get that to happen. And to not necessarily it be just an incentive, like, you did a great job, so you get to go on this field trip, or you get to meet this artist. Like, we really do, everyone wants it to be for all students. And so that's a big goal that it may not happen in one school year, but we are building towards just a lasting, a lasting art culture environment in these schools that I really think will be there for years to come. And it will probably take more than us two, but we're getting there. So
a goal for me, I try not to, put a cap on myself, because sometimes when I get too specific with numbers, I get too tunnel visioned, and I get too focused on that. And if I don't find that to be productive. So I think a goal for me, with Amp Up Arts is just to continue putting forth excellent programming, and to continue broadening our reach with specifically teaching artists. This is it's becoming more difficult to hire teaching artists, because, as you know, the arts, are constantly walking uphill. And there's not as big of a pool of artists year after year. And so reaching a network of artists that I trust to put forth excellent programming is definitely always a goal of mine. And tapping into, honestly, the upper level education, college, university programming. There's some excellent programs still out there. And so for me to get inside the classroom and speak to those students who are, on the brink of graduation, telling them what we do, really, that's a huge goal, because without them, we can't do what we do. So that's
and I feel like we didn't really talk about them, but like they're incredible. I mean, I feel like everyone that will listen to this are true artists, but I just want y'all to know that like we are not. I mean, I am not. And we're having normal everyday volunteers join us for this, and they are just like, you weren't kidding. And I'm like, yes, a true local Mobile artist is teaching this class. So I just think that is something that makes it even more special.
Yeah. And they're really good. The teaching artists are so good about meeting the kids like where they are developmentally, because like if you have a student that is in 3rd or 4th grade but has not had arts, their artistic development may not be that of a 3rd grader, which is completely reasonable because they have never been exposed to it. And I think, the teaching artists do a really, really good job of like not, like meeting them where they are developmentally, that like, maybe they are X number of years old, but they're not going to be able to do that yet, because I mean, they should technically if they've had arts up to this point, but really like, okay, let's start like at the basics, so they're not feeling overwhelmed or like they can't, like it's not accessible for them.
I mean, to your point, we were discussing primary and secondary colors in middle school. And then they were like, Miss Mary Frances, what's the answer? And I was like, I don't know that I know them all correctly, but I know what the primary colors are. But but that's a great point. I mean, so that right there to me is the why behind why we're doing it.
Yeah. Well, I just have one more thing for you guys before we leave. Community members, artists, educators in your area, if they want to get involved with Fuse, Amp Up Arts Mobile, and or both, or support your efforts, what can they do? How can they do that?
So I assure you that if you go to either of our social media, I feel like we're really good we share about this. I mean, you can see it for yourself. And I can say we'd love to have you as a volunteer. You don't have to have a lot of art skills to volunteer for us. And summer would be a great time to come see it. And then I'll let her speak for Mobile Arts Council. But
so mobilearts.org is our website. And as Mary Frances said, we also share on our social media. You can find us at Mobile Arts Council. We have an Amp Up Arts page on our website. You just hit the education tab and you'll find everything you need there. We have forms you can fill out if you're an interested teaching artist. If you are a school or school administrator and you want to have programming in your school, you can also find a link there where you can reach out to me and tell me exactly, specifically what you want to see at your school. You can also email me at kat@mobilearts.org, and I would love to talk with you.
Awesome.
She's
Yeah.
better than me. Ours is drumroll fuseproject.org, but anything you need, you'll find me on the internet, Fuse Project, and we're there.
Thanks,
Well,
Yuri.
thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys again so much. Thank you, Kat, Mary Frances, for joining us tonight, and really all the incredible work that you're doing for students. Honestly, like, you know, I mean, I support the sites at the state level, and I mean, I'm not saying my job is easy, but site directors, Kat, like, definitely make it easier.
For sure.
With all the incredible work that they do, and Mary Frances, and having partners like you guys.
Having
really,
cool partners.
Yeah, really, really helps the work that we're doing. And thank you to everyone that tuned in. And we will have this recorded on our YouTube channel, the Amp Up Arts YouTube channel. Our next webinar is going to be, I should have that in my head right now, and I don't.
That's a me move. You're being me right now.
Like, I should have it right here. I don't. It's going to be May 27th. through the last Tuesday in May at 5 p.m. We're actually going to have a school administrator from Foley High School, so not too far from you guys, talking about how to advocate specifically for the arts from a school administrator's perspective. So I'd love for everyone to join back in with us the end of next month. And thank you guys again. And I hope everyone has a really great evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.